All right, guys, it's Antonio with Black Ops Fitness. I'm here with Jess, one of our badass women athletes. We're going over the deadlift today. We're gonna go over some cues, some points, some setup stuff, but also Jess has a really strong deadlift. She's at around 295 PR at a body weight of 130. So that's super strong athlete. So what we're going to do is we loaded the bar up because we don't want to just have lightweight on here because we want to see where the failure occurs. There's some slight rounding that she wants to change in her lift because it is causing her back discomfort, and that's what we're going to try to work on today, to have her lift, see if we can do a before and then an after we use some technique work. Also, we're going to give you a lot of valuable information that you can apply to your own technique. All right, so the first thing we want to do is just see Jess deadlift 205 on the bar right now, which is heavy. She already did it once, and she is feeling some discomfort from, you know, her deadlift workout 2 days ago? Yesterday. So we don't want to overtax her or hurt her, but we do want to try to stop this. So Jess going up, she's going to go ahead and deadlift this bar. Good, and then back. Okay, so we do see some rounding in the lower. We see the lumbar kind of collapsing a little bit, rounding, and of course the upper back starting to go a little bit. That is our second rep at 205. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to do some setup drills. We're going to do fundamentals and principles of deadlifting. Meanwhile, Jess is going to be recovering so that she doesn't have to lift right away. And then we're going to see what we can solve, if there's anything we can change, and then I'll give you my final 2 cents at the end. Her style of lifting and just fitness in general is very similar to mine. I went as hard as I could. I always try to lift heavy. I tried to go hard on the workouts, and I achieved success in that. But I also kind of sacrificed my body at times to do that because of the way I was built. I'm not the like quintessential build for a weightlifter, and I didn't find weightlifting until I was like 32, and I'm 38 now. So it's late in my life that I found it, and I see the similarities in Jess, that she's a really good athlete. She goes really hard. And she will win at all costs, but sometimes that goes to her body. It's kind of put at risk, and we don't want that. So she reached out to me very wisely. She's lifting very heavy, but she's not happy with the fact that her back is rounding. So we're going to try to work on that now. First thing you want to know is that everyone's built differently, and so their deadlift setups are going to be built differently. There are some rights and wrongs, but outside of that, depending on how tall you are, how much you weigh, how much body mass you have, how big your hips are, all of these contribute to your deadlift setup and execution of the lift. So the first rule in the deadlift that we're going to go over is how you get up to the bar. So when Jess sent me a video of her deadlift, I could see that she was trying to keep that back straight, but that she was struggling with it. And so right away I felt, for her, what would be valuable is rather than going into her setup right from the bottom, that if she could do all of her thinking at the top and visualizing, and then come down kind of faster and pull the bar quickly without spending time at the bottom, that might help her keep those shoulders pulled back, keep her abs locked in, and keep her back straight. When you do a deadlift, you really concentrate on a big belly of air.
Yeah.
You do? Okay, good. Because that was one thing I thought, maybe she's not holding a big belly of air. Sounds like she is, so we kind of will rule that out. Now I'm still going to watch her and see if she really is over-exaggerating it. If you look at the professional powerlifters, they kind of look crazy.
Yeah.
These huge monster guys, and their head, you know, their cheeks are popping, their heads are fully red. But that's what it takes to fully brace in to lift something super heavy. What I always call it is over-exaggerate. Don't worry about looking pretty when you're going to deadlift. Over-exaggerate that belly of air, like a big fat stomach full of air. Someone once said, if you're wearing a weight belt, try to make your belly fat, like push against it, which is kind of tricky when you're thinking of holding a weight, but these are all cues that might work for you. So that's one rule we'll work on. And then of course her setup. Can we change something in the way she sets up that'll help her keep her chest up? And if she keeps her chest up, she'll have a better chance of keeping her shoulders back. And if she keeps her chest up and her shoulders back, she'll have a better chance of keeping her back straight, and which most of the time will prevent back pain. But I still have that issue as well because I have some injured discs that even when I do it right, it still goes to my back. So for me, it's muscle development that needs to be worked on and some technique. With Jess, we're going to decide if that's the case or not. What that simply means is, you can pretty much tell, my glutes are pretty good, but my hamstrings are kind of straight. So I need to really work on my hamstrings this year so that they can take the load of this lift and not my back. And that's my goal for 2021. So Jess is gonna walk up to the bar. Now, she's a pretty tall girl, so when you're a taller athlete, a narrower stance sometimes works a little bit better. When you're not as tall, you might have a wider stance. And the reason for this is how fast you can push your hips through. Everyone thinks the deadlift is a pull, and it is, but it's also a pull with a push. And the push means pushing the hips through so that the hips don't get out of the lift, and you're just pulling this weight up and shaking, and the back's taking all that abuse. So we want to try to avoid doing that, but it is difficult. So for her, and being that she is kind of taller, I'm going to have her walk in a little closer to the bar. The common rule is if you look down at your foot, you'll split your foot with the barbell and just bisect it, but for her, I'm going to have her walk in even a little closer. Now the next thing is when she comes to lift this bar, we want this bar lifting straight up, straight line. The straighter the better for your deadlift, okay? So for her, we're going to have her shins pretty close, her feet are inside the knurling, that's that grip, and she makes sure they're even on both sides, which they are. And now we're just going to do setup. She's not going to lift this. She's just going to work on her setup. I'm going to have her down there. I'm going to give her a release, put her back down there, and give her a release. Some common rules when she goes into this is that we want her shoulders above her hips, and that's something we're going to focus on. I'm also going to give her a visual cue of what to look at so that she attempts to make a neutral spine, which is simply a straight line from the back of her head, base of her neck, down to her tailbone, okay? All right, so again, she's not going to lift this. She's got her shins almost touching the bar. She's got a slight angle in her feet. And now I'm going to teach what I teach beginners, but it's really an easy way to get in a really good starting position for the deadlift. So we're going to give her the alternate grip right from the back because this is heavy, and we're working towards where her form breaks down, and that's at that heavy weight. We said like around 225, 250 and up is where that back's going to start rounding significantly. And so we want her in that change grip because we don't care about her grip losing. We want to focus on what's important, right? So right away, she's going to do this with an alternate grip. For a right-handed person, I think it feels comfortable to do the right hand palm out. Do you agree?
I'm left-handed, but
okay.
That's usually what I do though.
There we go. So I think it works either way. I have this weird world of like I can shoot a hockey stick left-handed, so I don't really know where I'm at.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's another story. So when she goes down to do this, she's going to maintain that alternate grip. Some common errors we see is people going too wide or too narrow for their body type. I watched her deadlift earlier, and that's not too big of a deal with me. If I see something here, we'll address it. So here's the weird setup that I just came up with that I think will work for most athletes. She's going to do an awkward squat. She's not just going to go down there and set up. She's going to do an awkward squat and lock into this bar. What's going to be tricky is as soon as she feels that bar, because she's not going to be looking at it, because what we're really trying to do is keep her chest up. So she can't look down because most athletes will break their chest if they look down. So I'm going to have her awkwardly squat, keeping her shins vertical, and grab this bar and then stop moving from there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The other goal is to not push the bar forward by moving your shins at a 45-degree angle. She's going to try to maintain it, and that's why I call it an awkward squat. So go ahead and try that. Keep your chest up, keep your head up, and then grab it really strong and stop. Good. Beautiful. Now, her shoulders are over her hips like we talked about. She's got a good width grip, but I can already see, I want you to relax and stand up. I can already see her back rounding very slightly in her setup. So for Jess, she's going to have to do the over-exaggeration cue. She's going to have to get this crazy like setup mode that her main focus is not rounding that back. We know she can lift super strong. She wants to lift super strong for life without blowing her disc out. And she's smart enough to realize that that's on the line, and she needs to address this now, right? We know she has the strength. So for her, she's gonna have to really focus on tension on the bar. And what that means is the final little step of pulling all the slack out of your body and pulling your chest up and your shoulders back as tight as you can get them. So her chest is gonna be really high. I don't even care if she brings her head up on this, because what we want to do is really pull that back. Does that make sense? And she's already commented she understands shoulders back, but it just isn't working for her. So we're going to be like, all right, well, I'm still going to cue you that. We're just going to over-exaggerate the crap out of that and see if there's anything we can do to kind of tighten that back and get it from kind of straight and loose to ramrod straight. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So let's do the same awkward setup. Reach down, and then I want you to push your feet through the floor and pull with everything you have to lift your chest to the ceiling. Now lock in, lock in, lock in, lock in. Much better. Now chin down if you can. Lock in, lock in, lock in, and relax and stand up. So now she's showing really good tension on that bar. Did you feel different?
Yeah.
Right? This is hard to teach. It's one of the things I need to get across to you guys because it's going to take away from injuries. It's going to make you more aggressive and strong. And what happens is if your chain is loose, when you pull that weight, and we've all felt it happen, you feel the weight, you're like, oh crap.
Yeah.
And then the whole body gets that oh crap moment, and everything kind of rounds. So it's like, oh shit, that's heavy. And then everything breaks a little.
Yeah.
We need to know before we go down that this is heavy. We're not respecting it. If you don't respect the weight, you can crush the weight. And that's what, it's just a change of mindset. Where in your setup, you're gonna be so intense and aggressive that we're not allowing that back to round, and we're also gonna smoke this weight right off the floor. And to do that, you really have to drive your feet. I said, drive your feet to hell, drive your chest to heaven. You know what I mean? I said that yesterday, it kind of fit. Anyway, are you ready to try to lift this?
I'll try.
Okay, so you're gonna do the same approach. I want her upstairs or up here, I want her visualizing. She's going over a checklist. All right, shoulders are gonna be back. Chest is gonna be high. My foot position, my grip, my shins are gonna be straight because we want this bar going straight up. We don't want it going out, right? And we don't want it going like falling back. We want that thing going straight up so that the science of the bar path is she lifts it as efficiently as possible. All right? So she'll do all that thinking up top, and then she'll go and grab, hold a huge belly of air, and pull up. If something is wrong, when she grabs it, she needs to let it go and stand back up and restart the thinking process. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
This is something I do. Some people think too much, and some people don't put any thought into it. Both work at times, but both can hurt you at times. I'm not saying she overthinks, but it could be an issue.
Yeah.
Okay? I think she respects the weight a little too much and thinks about her back hurting while she's deadlifting. And if you do that, guess what's going to happen? You're going to hurt your back. It's this weird yogi mindset thing, chi, alignment. Don't focus on the negative, focus on the positive, and you will see a difference in your lifting. Okay? So, if it's not right, let it go and come back up, but let's see if we can overly aggressively pull that chest up, pull those shoulders back, and drive our heels through the ground and push the hips through. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when she goes to lift it, she's going to do everything she can to squeeze her butt through, like that. Okay. Lock in, lock in, lock in. Beautiful. Drive up, good, and then back down. All right, so she did apply the tension. We did see some slight rounding. I believe over time, if she applies this rule to lighter weight to build up her hamstrings and her glutes, that is going to solve your problem. She's already come a long way because we remember, I think we watched your PR and I was like, whoo, yeah. I didn't see it. She killed it, but it was like a lot of rounding. She's come a long way from there, but the journey is ahead of her as well. And it is with me too. I have to find, can I this year deadlift heavy weight again, like I used to, without back pain? Because if I don't, I'm not really interested in it. It's hurting me, you know, and I don't really want to be hurt all the time. So what we have to do is sometimes we have to rewrite or start over from scratch, which she doesn't have to do. She just needs to drop it down, and she has already done this. So I know this is like, damn it, I already did this. But she is going to see success with this because it's only happening under heavy loads, and she is aware of it. So we believe over time she can fix it, okay? Now, what we could do is we can try to change your stance and your grip and see if that results in anything different. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go with a narrower stance.
Okay.
We're going to do just that. We're just going to change her stance, and she's really going to get into the same chest up, driving up through her heels. Everything stays the same. Your stance just gets narrower.
Okay.
And we're looking at maybe an inch, maybe an inch and a half narrower. Just go up there and walk it out and see what it looks like. Yep, I'm happy with that. It's going to be new for her. She's going to feel like she's like jammed in. But let's see if we can initiate a change. We might not be able to, but it would be really cool if we did. So let's get her some chalk. Now, can you do what is called a top-down setup? Could you just hold a big breath of air, reach down, awkwardly squat, and deadlift it?
I can try.
I say we try that. Don't overthink it. If you get loose right before you pull, you're gonna round.
Yeah.
So you gotta kind of like commit to it. You're like, I'm just gonna go down and do all the rules right at once and drive everything I have through it.
Okay.
What do you think?
I'll try it.
All right, she got this. You can open your ankles just slightly. Other way. Yep. When I say that, I just mean open them out a little. Okay. Maybe a little hair narrower. Right there. Good. Okay. That is narrower than your original stance,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Cool. All right. Let's see what we got. Big belly of air. Good. And then down. Now, I'm actually seeing a slight improvement with that to where I would actually coach her to go even narrower.
Yes.
So I would say even a little more in, like that. Open your angles just a little, just like that. So she's got about this wide of feet. I think this is how you should start deadlifting because I think it's going to help you kind of like narrow your box, which is going to help you narrow the mass of the shoulders going too wide. Because when they go the wider, it's easier to round. The narrower, it's easier to pull back. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to give her a little bit of a break. I'm going to talk about some things. She's going to jump to the side because she needs a little bit of a break. And I'm going to go over some rules with you. So Jess has done really well. I just want to go over some fundamentals before she does her final attempt. So depending on your height, the length of your legs, the length of your back, and how big your hips are, it's going to change your setup, okay? But the rules apply, the same rules apply. You need to push those hips through as fast as you can. The faster you can push the hips through, and I struggle with this to this day. I just tried my first deadlift last night and I had the same problem. Once it got to 375, it just went right to my back. Why that happened is because my legs straighten too early, and then I finish without hamstrings involved, and so the majority of it goes to my lower back. Even though my shoulders are on, I can keep my shoulders on, I'm still having the same issue as Jess. So just know that depending on your size, the taller you are, a narrower stance may help you. And being closer to the bar in your setup, almost shins touching. The lower you are to the ground, a wider stance, and the bigger your hip structure is, a wider stance may be beneficial, and you don't need to be as close. So those are some basic rules, but after that, you gotta drive those hips through, and you gotta fight to keep that chest up. When you hear me on PR night, all I yell is chest up. It's a stupid cue, it's simple, and some would say it's over cueing, but it works all the time. Because when an athlete starts to struggle, if they focus on driving their chest up, now I know that they're keeping their back straighter, they're getting their hamstrings back in the lift, and generally they finish it, okay? So that's just another thing. And then finally, the huge belly of air to make sure that the front is so locked in, the back won't break. All right, last lift, and let's see what we can make happen here. So, you ready for this, Jess?
All right.
We're gonna go ultra narrow here just to see if anything changes. Obviously, she's getting tired at this point, and she already is kind of smoked from deadlifting yesterday. So she's being awesome, great sport. So remember that narrow stance. And you can pick this up however you want. The less time you're down there, the better. Just make sure that chest is way high. Hold a huge belly of air and fight it up as you drive down through the floor. Pull in, pull in, pull in, pull in. So what we're seeing there is fatigue for sure. Just as a coach, I know she's fatigued. For Jess, it's going to be all this setup. It's really getting her comfortable from 135, perfect. From 155, perfect. From 165, perfect. And that's how we go right up the chain. And in the meantime, you're doing accessory exercises for your hamstrings and glutes because that's all I'm saying. It's the breakdown of the hamstring and the glute and the back overcompensating. Plenty of band pull-aparts to just over-focus on pulling the shoulders back. It's a journey for you. You already have a huge BR. It's probably, if not the highest in the gym, it's the top 3, I believe. So we already know the weight is not a problem. So now we work on the small stuff, building up the structure, so when we get to PR day, you can lift your best and do it perfectly. And that's the overall goal. So guys, I hope you learned something. Thank you, Jess, for giving us your time. It's going to be a journey for her. It's going to be a journey for me. But I think we know the principles and what we need to work on. The more pulling back she can do, whether it's face pulls, getting the traps pulled back, band pull aparts, it's going to pay off for her. And then really getting on our machines, hamstring curls, maybe even sumo deadlifting for a while to really initiate that inner thigh and hamstring strength. This is the journey. So guys, if you have any questions, hit me up, but hopefully you found something useful.